March 18th, 1990. It's late in the night as the final few partygoers head home from their St. Patrick's Day celebrations, leaving the city of Boston in a quiet state. But within the walls of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, a different kind of drama is about to unfold. Inside, Rick Abbott and Randy Hestand, two guards on a routine night shift, patrolled the museum as they prepared for another uneventful night, trading places and counting down the hours until they could leave. But little did they know, they were just moments away from witnessing the biggest art heist in history. The Gardner Museum's nights typically went the same. One guard controlled access, sitting by the security monitors at the front desk, while the other patrolled the silent galleries. And on this St. Patrick's night, Rick Abbott was first to man the desk, as Randy Hestand, who was newer to the job, began walking the halls. The two regularly followed the system of switching their roles in order to break the job's monotony, and this night seemed to be going like any other. However, just as Abbott was sitting at the desk, at 12:54 a.m., an alarm suddenly rang, and the museum's fire sensors started flashing red. Startled by the unexpected noise, he rushed to check around for any signs of smoke, but upon inspecting the area, he found nothing out of the ordinary. Abbott assumed it was a false alarm, proceeding to reset the system, and then briefly opened the side entrance door, glancing outside before resuming his duties. However, just as he thought everything had returned to normal, the museum's buzzer sounded, and a voice on the intercom could be heard. "Boston Police. We are investigating a disturbance." Abbott then looked outside, and sure enough, he saw two uniformed officers standing right at the door. At first, he was suspicious and hesitated whether he should open the door. But as the officers stood waiting, he ultimately gave in and let them inside, breaking the museum's protocol. Little did he know this would be the biggest mistake of his life. Once the officers entered, they then asked if anyone else was inside, to which Abbott responded, "Yes," before calling over his partner on the intercom. The officers paused for a moment, and then one of them spoke again. "You look familiar. We have a warrant out for your arrest." This statement confused Abbott. But before he could even react, one officer shoved him against the wall and placed him in handcuffs. Hestand soon arrived at the scene as well. However, just like his partner, he was overpowered by the policemen who pinned him down. Then one of the officers leaned in close and calmly told the guards something which would confirm their worst fears. "Gentlemen, this is a robbery." The guards were now filled with panic, quickly weighing their options. They weren't armed as per museum's policy, and their only line of defense was a panic button located by the front desk, which would alert the authorities if pressed. But upon realizing that they'd been tricked by the robbers into moving away from it, they understood there was nothing they could do but comply, as the robbers led them downstairs to the basement. Here, the robbers violently wrapped duct tape around their mouths, hands, and feet, leaving the museum's only two guards lying disoriented on the concrete floor. As the robbers stood over them, they exchanged a brief glance before leaving. It was clear that the heist was about to begin. From this point on, the thieves moved quickly and with purpose, knowing exactly where to go and what to take. By 1:48 a.m., the two entered the Dutch room. Ignoring the motion sensors, they went straight for Rembrandt's The Storm of the Sea of Galilee, slicing the canvas from its frame and tossing it into their bag. They repeated this with A Lady and Gentleman in Black, and Vermeer's The Concert, all priceless pieces of art vanishing in seconds. By 1:51 a.m., they made their move to the short gallery, targeting other valuable pieces. But they didn't stop at paintings. As soon, the sound of shattering glass echoed through the museum as they ripped a bronze eagle, finial, right out of a French flagpole. Whilst pulling it out, it alerted the system. And soon the thieves faced a problem as a proximity alarm started to ring. However, without any hesitation, they simply snipped the wires, silencing what was the museum's final line of defense. But just as they were about to leave, the thieves made a calculated return to the security office, ripping out the security camera's tapes and the hard drive, erasing all traces of their presence. And after one final sweep, confirming that they had taken everything on their list, they exited the museum, vanishing into the night with 13 stolen pieces, totaling over $500 million. A sum so large, it would make this the biggest art heist in history. As the morning finally broke, the guards working the next shift arrived, only to find that they couldn't contact their colleagues to check in. They then tried to enter the building, but were unable to, without being granted access, and fearing the worst, they soon called the local police. When the police arrived, they found the two guards, Abbott and Hestand, still tied up in the basement. And by assessing the condition of the museum, it quickly became clear this wasn't just a simple break-in. As with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stolen art, the FBI would need to take over the case. And as soon as they did, almost instantly, various theories started to emerge. Some people thought the Boston Mafia or the IRA were involved, as back then stolen art was commonly used as a way to launder money, whilst others believed it was an inside job done by someone who knew the museum security inside and out. But the most probable theory to date suggests that the robbers were sent by a private collector, as during the robbery, they strangely left behind some incredibly valuable pieces, like Titan's Europa, which made it seem like they were targeting specific paintings from buyers' lists. However, with just these theories and no solid evidence, the case went cold for years, until 1994, when a strange letter arrived at the museum. The message, sent anonymously, stated that the paintings could all be returned through a third party as long as two conditions were met: $2.6 million and complete legal immunity. The museum followed the letter's instructions, placing a coded message in the Boston Globe to confirm they were ready to proceed. And days later, they would receive a response, as another later stated, "We received your message. The thieves need time to consider." They patiently waited, but as the days turned into months, communication from this anonymous source suddenly stopped, hitting a dead end. Decades passed and the FBI continued their search, still no closer to finding the missing masterpieces. But hope resurfaced once again when a new name emerged in the case: Jimmy Marks, a notorious career art smuggler who had allegedly bragged about having two of the stolen paintings in his possession. The FBI quickly tracked Marks's location and rushed to the scene, but it was too late, as once they arrived, he was found dead, shot twice in the back of the head right outside his apartment in a clearly planned attack, bringing the investigation back to square one. To this day, the FBI continues to search, but with the painting still missing, no suspects identified, and no new leads emerging, the empty frames hanging inside the museum serve as a reminder that somewhere out there, someone knows the truth about history's biggest art heist.